Jake Gadon of CBS 13, and he is smiling. For those that are listening on the radio, my man is smiling from ear to ear. He's got his Patriots jersey on. He is excited for the AFC Championship this week. And hey, you've been on this team from jump, and here they are. They are one game away from the Super Bowl, man. I'm happy for you.
I'm surprised you're happy for me, because most people hate this, because quite honestly, they're like, you had 3 bad years and your dynasty's back to starting right over with a new quarterback, which is hysterical.
Let's slow down on the dynasty talk, and let's get them through Denver and into Santa Clara for that Super Bowl before we start talking dynasties. I will say this. I love the way that they played last weekend. I love Drake May, if he's not the MVP, he's going to finish second. Like, he has had a phenomenal season, and it's hard to not watch him and think, man, he might have something special. Mike Vrabel's obviously a good football coach. You know, it's tough to measure any dynasty against that Patriots team, because that was 20 years. Like, that's insane. Like, the Warriors dynasty was not even 10. Like, 20 years of the New England Patriots is incredible. But for you guys to be back in this position, and I said it, earlier this week, there's a very old school feel here, and I don't mean old school like 80s or 90s. I mean old school like Brady and Manning. There's an old school feel here to this Patriots Broncos AFC Championship on Sunday.
And I love it, though, because it reminds me, like you said, of the Brady Manning times where, they're going into Mile High, they're coming into Gillette. It's a new era of young quarterbacks. You got May, you got Bo Nix, you got CJ Stroud. Like, it's the changing of the guard in the NFL. It's going to make these rivalries even more exciting moving forward. Unfortunately, Bo Nix not going to play this week for Denver, but that would have added another layer to it. What's intriguing for me is all these teams have ways of getting better. Like, they're not pushing the cap. They have great drafts every single year. It's also the teams that consistently know how to run good operations, right? It's hysterical because you still see the New York Jets as one of the worst teams in the NFL on a night-to-night or year-to-year basis, and they can't figure it out. Yet the great teams with great ownership like the Patriots, the Broncos, the Colts for a little bit this year, Steelers, Ravens are all in it right now, and it makes those rivalries even better moving forward.
You mentioned Bo Nix not going to be available. Of course, you're 100% right. That would have added a tremendous extra layer to this, the next generation of quarterback in the NFL. Drake May being part of that, perhaps Bo Nix being a part of that. But you are familiar with the Denver Broncos starting quarterback for this AFC Championship game, and it's former New England Patriots quarterback Jarrett Stidham. There's obviously going to be a lot of talk about that position over the course of the next handful of days. What do you remember from Jarrett's time in New England? And I'm not going to ask you to comment on him now because I don't feel like we know much about him, but what did you know about him then?
I just know that he is an accurate quarterback. He commands the offense. I believe he came out of Auburn, and they were really high on him. At least Josh McDaniels was coming out. The biggest problem that he had with New England was just processing the speed of the game, and I think that comes with time in the NFL just because it's so much faster. But what I do remember is, there was a preseason game with Demaryius Thomas where he looked phenomenal. Like, just absolutely like, okay, this guy can be a starter in this league. And that's why it gives me a little bit of, fright heading into Sunday of what he actually can do for this Broncos team. He is a competent quarterback. He's probably one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL and has been in this offense for the past 2 years with Sean Payton. And it's shown when Bo Nix doesn't play well, they still can win games. And I say the same thing with Jarrett Stidham. I don't think this game is not going to rely on Jarrett Stidham and how well he does. I think, it will have a factor in it, but it's not the overriding factor. I think there's a bunch of factors into it. Stidham can run and operate an offense very well. And from his time in New England, the reason why he wasn't there moving forward is a changing of the guard. Josh McDaniels, of course, left to go take the Raiders job. And then Gerard Mayo came in. Belichick kind of fell out of love with him. So that's how we kind of ended up over in Denver. And I know for a fact this offseason they tried to bring him back to back up Drake May, and they were interested in him again. he is a competent backup. He could be a starter in the league if needed for multiple weeks. Is he a top 10 quarterback in the league? No, I think that's kind of crazy. But he's definitely a top 40 quarterback in the league, and I'm excited to see how well he does for Denver. I'm not really excited. I hope he does poorly for Denver, but I'm intrigued by what he's going to be able to provide that Denver offense. That, I'll be honest with you, Dame, have not been very impressed with this year. Like, their number one target is Cortland Sutton. I know they're going to get RJ Harvey back this week, but and J.K. Dobbins is back. I think nothing about that offense scares me. It's all about Sean Payton and his play calling, and I'm intrigued to see how he works with Payton and how well they do together.
All right, this isn't WEEI or whatever it is out there in Boston, so let's end this little Patriots love fest. But I'm definitely excited for this AFC Championship. You were in Seattle for that ass whooping that took place over the weekend. It wasn't the 49ers night. Did the clock just run out on the Cinderella 49ers with all of those injuries, or is Seattle in fact that good?
I think Seattle, in fact, is that good. And the fact that they had the week off to be able to rest their bodies and kind of tune up for the postseason, that's why that, if I look back on it, that is why that Week 18 game was so big for both teams. Because, yes, the 49ers won in the wild card against Philly, who honestly, that was a Cinderella game. And I
honestly, it's dumb to call them Cinderella. This is a franchise that is ingrained in the NFL. I just meant with the context of they have suffered so many injuries and so many setbacks. And, like you were going into that Philly game, it's like, God, they got to hit like on multiple cylinders to be able to get this victory. And they were able to do that. And then they ran into Seattle.
And then also you got to remember George Kittle's injury against Philadelphia. It was just another gut punch there. So I think because they had the week off, Seattle did, they were able to rest, reset, and really just put belt to ass. I hate to say it, but against the 49ers. And it started from the jump with the kickoff return for a touchdown. A lot of shell-shocked. I think Purdy did everything he could to keep them in the game, extending plays. I just don't think he had the people to be able to throw the ball to. Ricky Pearsall was not playing at 100%. That defense is just so good, especially their DBs. That's why they play a lot of 5 DB set. And offensively, Sam Darnold didn't have to do much. They got the ball in great field position a lot of the time. They ran the ball. K9 was phenomenal. I know Charbonnet got hurt, but I am intrigued to see about this matchup this next week against the Rams. Both teams know each other extremely well because of the divisional matchup. It's going to show how good the Seattle defense is against a very high-powered and potent Rams offense run by Sean McVay. I think that is going to be the marquee game of the weekend of who's going to go to the Super Bowl on the NFC side, because probably the best defense in the NFL against one of the best offenses in the NFL. And it will show if Matt Stafford truly was the MVP this year, because, it is going to be a slugfest, and I think, quite honestly, a high-scoring affair.
Jay Gadon and CBS 13 kind of to join us here on D'Lo and KC. Jake, we did get some 49ers news, because after that Seahawks game, changes happened immediately. Robert Saleh is headed to Tennessee. Got to imagine he's going to probably take a few guys with him with Kyle's blessing. But this was a defense. I mean, when you talk about a coach getting the absolute most out of a group, like that's what Robert Saleh did. From, we can criticize the things that they didn't do well in terms of pass rush and, maybe even some criticisms for the secondary. But as a whole, they had no business being as competent and times good as they were. We hear Gus Bradley might be the guy to take over with Robert Saleh out. What do you think about that? Gus Bradley been with the organization now, and Kyle Shanahan for the last year, and him and John Lynch mentioned today he's most likely the guy to take over for Saleh.
I like the thought of Gus Bradley. It just I get worried because of the Nick Sorensen saga that we had the year before Robert Saleh, where things didn't look well and it really wasn't a great fit. I just hope the 49ers truly go through the process. If Jim Schwartz is available, I truly believe that's a guy I would take over Gus Bradley because he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. If Raheem Morris is available as well, that's another guy where I would strongly take a look at over Gus Bradley. Gus has got the inside track just because he's there already and he knows the squad, knows the team. I just worry that he's not ready for the position. Of course, Saleh is going to give him the endorsement. The players gave him the endorsement on locker room cleanout day on Monday. I'm just intrigued to see, if he is ready. But my hope, no matter what happens, is that the 49ers truly go through the process in a clear, concise way of considering all parties involved and not just saying, okay, it's Gus's job, we're going to go through the motions. I hope they truly take a hard look at Jim and a hard look at Raheem and see if they're both available and if they want to come to the 49ers, because I think both of them bring experience that Gus doesn't have.
I know Raheem Morris is hoping to land a head coaching job that might not be there for him this particular cycle. But if Robert Saleh shows us anything, it's like, hey, man, no matter how bad it might have been at your previous stop as a head coach, no matter how bad it might have been, come over here to San Francisco, run that defense, and spend a year or two here with Kyle Shanahan. There's a good chance you're going to get another opportunity as a head coach.
And that's what I would say to Raheem if you're selling him on why to come here. It's like, hey, you may not get a job this cycle, but come to a really competitive environment where, Robert really was in control of the defense, and Kyle was very hands off with it. Of course, he's involved because he's the head coach, but Robert really ran that defense. And with all the injuries, somehow or another, put this thing together to make it a competent defense. And honestly, I think the defense is only going to get better. You're going to get a lot of guys back, from Bosa to Fred Warner to Mykel Williams. I was real thoroughly impressed with Alfred Collins and CJ West this year. And Diamador Lenore took another step. If I'm the 49ers, I would continue to add to the defensive side of the ball in the draft and the offseason. Those are areas of improvement, especially at the linebacker position, more depth on the defensive line, and maybe add another safety to the mix behind Malik Mustafa, excuse me. So it's an enticing job. I think that's what you would say is like, hey, we have a great defense. We're going to add to the defense. And we understand you may only be here for a year or two, but it's going to give you a job for a year and a platform to show how good of a coach you still are and why you deserve to be a head coach moving forward.
Yeah, and the thing with Gus Bradley is he's had his time as a head coach and a defensive coordinator. He may not be going anywhere for a while, if at all, if Kyle Shanahan decides to go in that direction. And everything you said about Raheem Morris probably holds true for Jim Schwartz too, because Jim Schwartz has been taking his interviews this cycle as well. And there's so many jobs available, like someone's got to fill them. So we'll see what winds up happening with those two. You're listening to D'Lo and KC on KIFM West Sacramento, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320 live on the Odyssey app, your smart speaker, live in the visual form as well on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You can see how handsome Jake Gadon of CBS 13 is in his stupid Patriots jersey. Let's talk Kings basketball here for a minute. Domantas Sabonis not playing tonight, second night of a back-to-back. They call it left knee injury management. Interesting night for Domas last night. Doug might have been doing left knee management there in the fourth quarter as well, as Domas never got off the bench, Jake.
I would say it's been an interesting past two games for Domantas Sabonis, dating back to Sunday's game where they chose Dylan Cardwell over Domas. And if you had a chance to see how Domas was in that Portland game on the sideline, I think he wasn't really happy that they chose Dylan, the two-way player, over Domas to play in the final 4 minutes of that game. Don't get me wrong, Dylan has been playing better defense than Domas, and Domas does not look like he's back in normal shape and back to his old form yet. But then playing only, 4 minutes in the second half last night, he had double-digit rebounds again, and really just never got it going. I am intrigued by what's going on with Sabonis, because here's the thing.
He wasn't good last night, Jake. He was not good last night.
No, he wasn't. And I don't know, maybe he rushed it back too quickly in terms of this injury. But what's intriguing to me is Domas has been available for us, to the media, to talk to him after the game for the majority of his 2.5 years here in Sacramento. The past 2 games, he's been one of the first players out of the locker room, and we have not been able to talk to him after the game. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. I'm reporting of what we know about it. It's just intriguing because Sabonis is always available to talk about how he's feeling, what he think went right, went wrong in the game. And the fact yesterday that, myself and our good friend Sean Cunningham went into the locker room and he already had left before we even gotten in there I cause for concern, I would say. I'm speculating here, but I would assume that Sabonis is not very happy with the amount of playing time he's getting, 1, and 2, how he's playing right now. So I wonder if he is thinking about, is it an injury that he came back too quickly and maybe should have sat out for another couple more weeks to fully ramp back up, or if there should have been a better plan with how he was going to be utilized. At the same time, though, Dame, Dylan and Max have been playing well of late, and I wouldn't mess with that mojo. I did like the lineups last night with Dylan and Domas playing alongside each other, but defensively, Domas did not look great last night. And when the Heat were scoring in bunches on them, especially Bam Adebayo, the better matchup was Dylan down there, and that's the intriguing part of what moves forward with Domas, if he's on this team or not, because his agency was there last night as well. So that's the other intriguing part about this whole entire thing. This is a statement of facts. I'm speculating on some of this, but something to keep an eye on.
I feel like you bring a great point up, Jake. His injury is sort of a mystery. And it feels like the way that it has been handled, whether that's Domantas Sabonis or it's the Sacramento Kings, it feels very clunky. And, you get this, Domantas Sabonis out 4 to 5 weeks. You get the Domantas Sabonis is out. He'll be reevaluated in 4 to 5 weeks. And then you get to it must have been somewhere between the 5th and the 6th week. And then you get, he's actually out another 5 weeks. And it's like, wait a minute, this is a 10-week injury? No one, you didn't know 4 weeks ago that this was a 10-week injury and there was no surgical procedure done. There was nothing along those lines. And to the best, I'm on the email chain. I didn't get Domantas Sabonis has been reevaluated. He's progressing towards this. He's progressing towards that. All we got was, hey, Domas was out before the Laker game. Is that the first time he's been out? Yep, he went through his whole workout. And then all of a sudden, Domantas Sabonis is going to be back the next game. And it's like, how did we get here? And then to wonder, maybe he's not completely healthy yet. That certainly tracks.
I think it's also, so I saw him practice the week before that. He was at practice doing shoot around. What I wonder is if he came back and did his normal routine, but hadn't played game speed yet, because they don't practice right now, Dame. Just in the middle of the season, they don't practice. Sure. It's a lot of walkthroughs, right? So my question is, did he feel good in those, walkthrough practices to say, hey, let's give it a try? But now that he's actually playing real games, he's not at the level where he thought he was actually supposed to be at. But you're right. The injury itself is a mystery, and I have not been able to get any answers from Domas's side on what is going on and what has gone on with the injury. We know statement of fact that there was no surgery, but what the rehab process looked like, who he got consultations from and everything like that I am very unsure of. And that is something that we need some clarity on. And I've been searching for it. We have not had the ability to talk to Domas aside from post-game interviews after his first game back.
Guess we're all searching for clarity. It wasn't just Domantas Sabonis that has had a weird minute distribution. Zach LaVine did not play in the fourth quarter until the final 2 minutes and 13 seconds. It was a 15-point game when Zach LaVine went back in, and that certainly was attention-grabbing. To the best of our knowledge, Zach LaVine isn't dealing with any sort of injury. What did that distribution of minutes tell you after last night's game?
It's a puzzling decision by Doug Christie. I understand he wants defense, right? And that's what is the answer he gave last night, saying, hey, why did Zach only play X amount of minutes the second half when he was cooking offensively in the first half? And he pointed to defense. Well, Doug, if you're going to point to defense, then why didn't you have your best defensive unit out there to slow down the Miami Heat? It's like that's sometimes where it's frustrating with Doug is like, I understand he wanted to play defense. Well, then play your best defensive players. And he didn't do that last night. Keon Ellis had a DNP. So, like, explain to me what the thought process is because I don't get it. I like the last night, the 4 games when they had the 4-game winning streak, of course, Keanu was out for a couple of those games. A couple other guys were out in those games. So the rotation was, 9 guys. But the past 2 games with the 10-man rotation and the distribution of minutes has been just wild to me. And the fact that they throw Zach in for the last final 2 minutes of the game was also very intriguing because I don't understand what the thought process was that just to throw Zach out there to say he got 20 minutes of work. Here's the other thing that I don't pin Doug on completely. Doug is not running rotations. Like, it's his assistants. He's part of his assistants are the main people that are watching the minutes for every single person. You can ask any NBA coach. That's how it works. Jordy Fernandez and Luke Laux were the assistants that were doing that for Mike Brown when they were here. With Doug, I don't know who it is. I actually have no idea of who's monitoring their minutes. But to have Zach out there and for the first half and do as well as he did and then not play in that second half, I'm speculating here, but I could see Zach being extremely frustrated with what his role is and what his position is, because I think that's the one thing that's a common theme in that locker room. Because I asked Malik Monk about it last night, like the fact that there's been an up and down with everyone's minutes. He specifically told me that like it's hard to get used to who's on the court with you and have some rapport and have some chemistry with that person when you don't know how many minutes you're going to get and when you're going to play with that person. And I think that's probably true for all the players that are playing on a night-to-night basis of we don't know who's going to be out there with us, how it's going to gel together. There's no specific roles for every single players, and that goes back just to roster construction of how this team is built. Way too many guards, way too many people that need their mouths to be fed in terms of points and time and amount of minutes they get per night, and it just leaves you with plenty of questions of like, you got to make a move. Dame. Like they've got to make a move, and I don't know if you have to win the trade because you have too many mouths to feed on this roster, and there's not enough minutes to distribute to everybody. So then you get into things like last night where Domas plays 20 minutes and Zach plays 20 minutes, and it leaves players extremely frustrated and asking what my role is, what do you expect out of me, and how are we supposed to win games?
You brought up Malik. I feel like Malik is the guy, like, I don't know exactly what it is. He was a guy who was out of the rotation, and now he's a guy who's not. And I don't know if he has done, it feels like he has done something differently that Doug is in on. Like, I have asked you, and I don't know this, but Doug clearly is willing to bench guys, be it Keon, be it Domas, be it, through portions of a game at least, be it Zach LaVine. Malik has clearly done something, and I hate to use the term good graces, but he seems to be, he's playing a lot more. He is a more consistent part of the rotation. We wondered, the cause and effect of the Dennis Schroeder suspension, but Dennis is back, and it hasn't really affected his ability to get out there. So it feels to me like Doug is saying something in the locker room or something on the practice court, and perhaps for the first time this season, he's holding people accountable to what he's saying and what they're not doing.
I would agree with you on that. And I think I'm speculating here when I say this, but I also think that the way that Malik played in that winning streak probably earned him some more playing time. And if you're asking yourselves why Keon Ellis is back out of his good graces, well, I think they gave Keon a leash to earn a role in this rotation, especially when they DNP'd Malik. And Keon did not step up to the plate. Like, yes, Keon's a great plus defender. Yes, he's an offensive threat. But at the same time, when he was presented with an opportunity, he did not take the reins and go with it. He still played his up and down game. And it's not saying that Keon Ellis is a bad player. It's just when you are fighting for roles in a rotation and on a team that's constructed with so many guards, you have to prove why you deserve to be out there. And if you don't do that when you're given a 10-game stretch to do it, they're going to go back to another guy and see if he can earn a role. Malik's been doing that. Malik played well for that 3 or 4 game stretch, And that's why they'll probably play Malik for the next 10 games and see how well he does and test it out again. Again, Dame, I'll say this time and time again. This is still an evaluation period. Scott Perry is still looking at this roster day in and day out and trying to figure out what's going to work and what's not going to work. They've given Keon plenty of time to figure out, if he can earn a role. Now it's Malik's time, and maybe we'll figure out who they'll end up keeping and trading away by the trade deadline. I can tell you this much. The Keon stuff right now with him being traded and Malik being traded, I would say are both 50-50. Both are still being floated out there. Keon's easier to trade than Malik because of the contract, and Malik is, a more veteran type of player compared to Keon. So there's that. But I think in the eyes of Doug Christie and the organization, they're both the same type of player.
Jake, great stuff, man. Appreciate you as always. Good luck this weekend, my friend. I'll be rooting for you. I'll be rooting for your happiness.
Thank you. And if I'm if I have tears of joy or tears of sadness on Sports Sunday, don't judge me. Okay.
Not at all. Not at all. I'll see you Sunday night, my man. Thank you.
Appreciate you, bud.
That's Jake Gadon right there.